In this video, I'm going to show you some of the ways you can customize the Crosspoint module on your MLS-X1 switcher to best use it for your particular production. So where we would probably start, and most people would start, is by, say, attaching a macro somewhere. So I've got a macro here, it's a basic macro, it just cuts between 4 sources on program. And if I jump into the macro mode on my Crosspoint pad here, I've got pre and post attachment options. So I'm going to push and hold both of them, and I'm going to attach that somewhere with a replace attachment, and I can run that like that. But that's pretty basic, and we can take much more control of this module with a few steps. So I'm going to remove that attachment for now, and we're going to talk about something called utility shopbox mode. Now, utility shopbox mode allows me to assign any one of the rows here to a row of utility, shopbox, or macro recall options. I can do that within the menu. So first of all, you can see over here, I've already got this second row here assigned to utility shopbox 1. When I open up there, you can see I've already customized this Crosspoint pad page, which we've covered in some other videos, to have options such as aux3, keys, or 2 of our utility shopbox menus. Now we have 8 total to work with, so you can have a huge amount of options within one production. I'm going to come over to the menu and show you a little bit about how that works. Over here, under the Setup menu, Panel and Module, you can see we have Utility Function Assign options, and we have both Utility modules and Crosspoint modules. Utility modules cover this utility area and the banks up here, and Crosspoint modules cover stuff we're using on our Crosspoint module. So Crosspoint module, you can see we've got Bank 1, 1, and there's an action group here, and I've got 4 choices: Utility commands, macro recalls, shopbox recalls, or panel memories. So let's go to macro recall, and let's pop macro 45 in there. And what that means is on the first button over here, I now have macro 45. So when I hit that button, you'll see it cuts through 4 sources. That's really useful, but at the moment, I can't really see what I'm doing. So I'm going to go to the display modes page. And I created a display mode before this demonstration called row 2, row 3. And when I turn that on, you'll see 2 things happen. The OLED splits in 2, and on the top half of the OLED, I get labels relating to the second row of buttons, and on the second row I get labels related to the third row of buttons, in this case my program sources and my utility functions. And you can see macro 45 there, which I've just assigned. Macro 45, by the way, is the name. Any macro name will go straight to the button. If I were to label that something else, so I'll come to my macro menu and give that a label, cool macro. You'll see my cool macro has appeared on the desk just there, and I can run it like that. So straight away, that's a little bit more flexible than attachments because I've got nice menu control of where I put things. So if I wanted to put that macro somewhere else on the desk as well, I'll go back into my panel module, Crosspoint module menu, and I could also add it on the 5th button over. Let's say macro recall, and I put 45. Now that's a few clicks away, that menu, and I might need to change that quite a lot in the show. So a nice feature I can use here is menu shortcuts. So if I turn on menu shortcut mode with a tap, you see all of these buttons are now flashing. When I hit one of those buttons, it will remember the menu page that the linked menu was in, and it will take me straight to it. So if I hit this button on the end there, you can see it says 120 because I haven't labelled it yet. I can turn menu shortcut mode off. And down here at 120 now, you'll see menu shortcut. And that has saved the menu where I can change all of these parameters. So let's call that util, and you'll see that says util page. Now I might also say want it to jump to, I don't know, my frame memory menu. So that'll grab the menu we're currently in. We don't want that one. So I'm going to go back into menu shortcut options. By the way, you can clear one by ticking the box and hitting clear. Super useful to clean up after yourself. So I'm back in menu shortcut mode. I'm going to go to the frame memory common menu, which is under frame memory and common. That's where I can handle all my file stuff, and tap that button again. And you'll see the switch has jumped me back to the utility function assign menu, ready to label that up. So I'll untick menu shortcuts, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to call that FM. So now when I hit my FM button, the menu jumps there, and when I hit my utility button, I'm back on my utility function page. So that's a really quick way of navigating around the menu to menus you might need to use whilst you're on air quickly without fishing them out or typing in a number. So let's talk a little bit more about display modes and some other ways we can use this area. Let's say in our next example, we want to use the stripe in key delegate mode. So I'm going to go over to my menu again. I'm going to look at the module, and I can do that, by the way, by going to button assign, getting my nice graphical interface up for the whole panel, having a look over here, and I'm going to put the operation mode in key delegate aux mode. We've covered this previously, but what that does is it turns the top row into delegation buttons and the second row into source selection buttons. Now with another display mode we can make that a bit clearer. So I've set up delegation mode. How that works in the menu, and we'll make one in just a moment, is delegation mode is showing me row 1 in the upper area and row 3 in the lower area. That means I can see which source I'm changing here. You can see key 1, key 2, key 3, so that would be key 4, and this is the source underneath. So if you take a look over here, we can see I'm now cutting around on key 4, and I can very quickly switch back to key 1, and now I'm changing sources on key 1. I can also do auxes there as well. So that's another way we can see clearly what we're doing. We might use that further up the desk on an upper stripe to see exactly which key we're routing at what time. Another example might be if we were to pop an aux on this second stripe. So we'll go back to our menu, and we're going to change our operation mode back to free assign, like so, PP free assign. And then I'm going to change this second stripe to be aux 3. Now I've got a different table assigned to aux 3, so it might be useful for me to see which sources are on program, but also which sources are available on aux 3. So I have my display mode showing row 2 and row 3, and this time you can see the top stripe is showing me the sources on aux 3, which is black, and then colour background 1 and colour background 2, and then frame memory 1 and frame memory 2. But this time I can see that on program I've got clip 1 and clip 2. So I can have a completely different set of sources on the row above, and I can clearly see which source is where and what I'm routing. There are 6 display modes that we can customise in the display mode menu. Let's say, for example, I want to see the sources on the top row instead of the second row. I can go into my display mode 4 here, and I'm going to give that a name, row 1, and then row 3. I have an option to split it or unsplit it. If we jump into that display mode, you'll see these changes happen in real time. So row 1, row 3 is unsplit at the moment. I'm going to hit that split button, and the OLED is split. The upper half, I'd like row 1. In the second half, I'd like row 3. I've also got an option to give either of them a grey background to make that more clear, which works like so. And this time, I'm viewing the sources on key 1 up here and the sources on program. They are the same sources, so we see them twice, but maybe I do just want to use old school macro attachments on just a few of them. So I'm going to attach that macro to a couple of sources up here, and then I'm going to edit that display mode to instead use row 1 macros. This time, all I'm going to see on my display is macro names. It's a key row, and it uses the same sources as program, so I can see the sources there, and I can also see that those green macro attachments are lit, and I can even see the macro name, even on just an attachment without using a utility shopbox mode. So that's just a couple of ways we can start to customize the panel to work best for us in our production, and how we can use the Crosspoint pad to change it on the fly and choose exactly what we want to see and when.